There is new urgency today to solve a string of cold cases after a suspected serial killer was killed last week. 45-year-old Neal Falls may be connected to murders in Nevada, Illinois, and Ohio, spanning across a decade. Dr. Mary Ellen O'Toole is a former FBI profiler and joins us now from Washington. Doctor, thanks for being with us.
You're welcome.
What are investigators learning about Neal Falls' past?
Well, they're learning everything about his past. They're learning where he's traveled, how he spends his money, when he was ever pulled over for a traffic ticket. They're learning about his sexual fantasies. They're learning about family members. They're learning absolutely everything that they can about him.
You know, Doctor, this story, this man, Neal Falls, was killed by a woman who he found her on the back of sort of one of these want ads, backpages.com. He went there and he was going to kill her. And if it were not for her quick thinking, her ability to get a hold of his gun, she would be dead right now. When police found items in his truck, after they came to the scene of the crime, they found what they call basically sort of a serial killer kit. What do you make of that when you hear the description of those items in the back of his truck?
Well, those items certainly are very provocative, and it's enough information for them to certainly look at this person's background, especially in connection with how he was finding this one woman who ultimately shot him. So they really do need to go back and take a look at other women that he's had contact with and what happened to them. So, I mean, those items suggest if he is involved in prior homicides, they suggest murder weapons. There are items in what they found to facilitate body disposal and cleanup at a crime scene. So they really, really do have to go back and take a look at what this man has been involved with.
Yeah, and as we said at the top, police are investigating. They found a dismembered body out in Las Vegas where he used to live. They're looking if there's any kind of connection to that. A lot of people are going to wonder, with all of if there are multiple murders that are connected to this man, how does somebody like this slip through the cracks? Is it because he's targeting these escorts, and many of these women that are escorts sometimes fall through the cracks of the system itself, and that's perhaps why we're not finding out any kind of connection between these murders and this man?
That's really one of the reasons. It's one of the strongest reasons, is that these women often don't go reported missing for a long time. But another reason that I've seen in all the serial murder cases that I've worked or consulted on is that these men can fly under the radar screen because during the time of their lives where they're not killing, during those parts of their lives, they're not out robbing banks and stealing cars, so they don't come to the attention of law enforcement. So the combination of the victims that they choose, which are considered behaviorally high-risk victims, plus their lifestyle allows them to live almost a pro-social lifestyle when they're not out killing. They can go for years. I've had cases where they've gone for 4 decades before they've been identified by law enforcement. So this is not unusual at all.
And Dr. O'Toole, I'm reminded of that term, the banality of evil, in describing somebody like this. In other words, they're able to function just like our neighbors, just like people we may see at the pub or at the gym, but in fact have this sort of double life. But is there anything at all, when you look at people like this, is it, when you study a case like Mr. Falls, do you say, oh yeah, these are the things we could have pointed to, before he had committed these crimes, or even as he was committing these crimes for many years? Or is it that you look and you say, man, we still really don't have a clue as to why he did this and what the motivations were?
Well, when I hear that question, it makes me think that you're asking me about anything on the exterior of this individual that would tell us, and there really isn't. Physically, they can look just as normal as you and me. Their pathology is quite a bit deeper than that. It's under the surface. Not unlike an iceberg. So they don't show you that side, because if they did, they wouldn't be able to access the victims. It's once they come in contact with their victims that they show who they really are. They show what makes them tick. What's so interesting in this case is, according to the woman that ended up shooting this individual, he began killing her right away, which I find very fascinating, because oftentimes they want to interact with the victim before they kill her. So this suggests to me that what he was doing with her was to kill her he wanted to, if he was going to kill her, he wanted to kill her very quickly and then interact with her, which suggests a very unique kind of offender.
And Dr. O'Toole, before I let you go, this woman who's only been identified as Heather, how is the word lucky? How lucky is she? Because somebody who presumably, if this is true, that he's allegedly killed other women, other escorts in this fashion, presumably he knows what he's doing. He thinks of different variables and tries to protect himself. How lucky is she that she was able to survive this?
Well, I never used the term lucky. To me, it sounds like she was thinking very strategically up to the time when he actually had his hands around her neck, and she acted very quickly. You find with a lot of victims, they're so overcome or overwhelmed by what's happening that they lose the ability to think critically, and she didn't. And so that's what enabled her to take action, shoot him, killing him, and she's alive now as a result of that.
Dr. Mary Ellen O'Toole, fascinating discussion. Thank you so much, Doctor. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.